Hi guys, it's K6AKK here with a quick comparison of two Yaesu Fusion HTs. This is the FT70D, retails for about $175 before tax and stuff if you can find one. Currently they're pretty hard to get a hold of. And the Yaesu FT3D HT. We recently got a YSF repeater and in the area, and so I've been playing with Fusion radios lately. Now with the 70D, you can see dimension-wise it's a little bit smaller. It does not have a color touchscreen like the FT3 does, so when you turn it on, press the button here, this is what you get. Monochrome type display. It is both UHF and VHF, and it can scan both, but it is not a true dual band. Whereas the FT3D, if we turn it on, and this screen could be a little harder to see. I should probably see if it's in there. Let's see if it turn it. See if I get closer. You can see it's a color screen. Don't know if I can actually get it to focus. It's a true dual band and a touch screen, so you can touch the screen and go from one A or B. And the other thing that I've heard a lot of complaints about on the FT70 is when you adjust this, you're adjusting the channels, not the volume. To do the volume, you have to hold the volume button and then change your volume control. Whereas on the FT3D, your volume is this lower knob. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little volume thing there, and it will go up and down with this. Whereas the top one will change your channel, so you have two controls here. The other thing with the FT3 is it does have a built-in GPS and does APRS and everything like that, so it's great to be able to take hiking with you and stuff like that. And weight-wise, it is a little bit heavier, but on the flip side, running these side by side, I find that the FT3 actually seems to last a little bit longer battery-wise. Now I haven't done an exact thing, but those are some kind of quick differences to see. Most popular, it seems, on the market right now, the FT70D on the left and the FT3D on the right. As you can see, one has a monochrome type display, one has a color touch screen. On the FT70, we'll light it up here. It does go into battery save mode, and that's what it looks like after you touch something on it. And the same here, the screen does get lighter if you don't touch it. So there, if we touch it, kind of comes back to life, which is a little harder to photograph because it keeps changing. I've noticed using both of these that big fingers, little buttons, not necessarily the easiest to press. A lot of times you're pressing function and then like to scan, to start it to scan. It's doable, you just got to pay attention to what you're doing. This one, the buttons are just a little bit bigger, so you can it seems a little bit easier for guys with big fingers. And even on the touch screen here, the squares are big enough that you can easily do it. So I'm finding that using the FT3D is a little bit easier to use. I'm certainly enjoying it. Okay, on the FT70D, to make changes, you hold in like the function key, and then you turn, well, let's get it going there. So here's, you pick your options. So like we started on beep, and then once you're in beep, you press that and you can make changes. So right now it's key only, off, key and scan, key only. And then you can either, I believe, press function key again or PTT, and that'll take you back out. On the FT3D, to make changes, it's really menu driven. So you hold in this display key, it brings up a menu. You can move around the menu either by touching or by turning the knob. And if we wanted to make config changes, for instance, you could go into here, you could press the display button, it brings up different options. You know, if you wanted to change, you know, how far it steps or something like that. And again, you can just kind of keep working your way in. And then as you can see, you can make changes. Press the back key to back out, one level each, until you get back to where you started. These are buttons here as well. So if I press this button, it brings up another menu. For deeper menus, you can see it goes back in further. You can press back to get back, and here you go. You can change your modes simply by pressing this button. See, now I'm in FM mode, I'm in digital wide, and digital narrow. And the ones with the line are automatic, the ones without are I guess you'd say forced, not automatic. So as far as the cost goes, the FT70D is about $175 retail on the market. Sometimes you can find a little bargain. Sometimes they're a little hard to come by right now. Whereas the FT3D, I think retails around $400. So, you know, you could buy a mobile radio for that price, and that probably brings up a good point. I have a number of FTM300s, Yaesu Fusion radios and mobiles, and this is basically that mobile radio in an HT format, albeit it doesn't have the same wattage. You know, it doesn't have the same power to go out, but it is max 5 watts going out. It does have a little lower setting. This one, I think minimum setting is 1 watt. This actually has like a half a watt or close to a half a watt type setting. So it has 4 different power settings instead of the typical 3 type of power settings. Again, both are great radios. One's kind of entry level. One's got more bells and whistles. A little easier to use with big fingers and stuff like that. So with the FT70D, as far as being able to use it and stuff, a lot of it's right here on the first level of the keyboard. Usually press function, and for instance 2 says scan. That turns on scanning. Like most radios, you press the PTT button and it'll stop it from scanning. You can change modes by pressing the mode button. You see the LEDs change up here depending upon the modes and what it's receiving. I have noticed that the sound coming out of this is a little muffled compared to the FT3D. I think it's probably simply caused by the speaker being covered for water protection. I think I've actually seen some guys out on the internet do something about that with their speaker to make it a little clearer sounding. Again, good little radio. It has, you know, external mic jacks, data jacks, so that you can program it with the Yaesu software if you want, rather than having to do it from the keyboard. It has an external power jack, as well as you can quick charge it on the back. The FT3D has similar things. It's got external power, Trying to read what this one says, mic and speaker. The key appears, there's a data and room for an SD card. So the SD card, which this does not have, this does have an SD card. You can use that for programming the radio, backing up the radio, as well as actually saving recordings of communications and things like that. This side is pretty much the same. You got a PTT button, you've got a squelch button, you got a volume button. Actually, on this one, on the FT3, you don't have the volume. I'm sorry. You just have a monitor and a squelch as well as on and off. Whereas over here we have volume, and then up here we have a monitor button. Because again, to change the volume on this one, you've got to hold this in and then turn this number. Whereas with this one, you would just adjust this inner ring, and that will change the volume of whichever band is currently highlighted, so you can have them separately. And then to adjust the squelch, you can press the squelch. Don't know if you can see that. It brings up squelch, and then you can adjust it with the volume knob, and then you press squelch again, and it goes back to volume.